I guess it's recording.
Is this thing on?
We're doing a new camera for GameWalks, and we're back from summer break.
Yeah, summer break. It's been
Let's
a
go
nice
with
summer
that.
in San Francisco.
Yeah, we've got some good weather. Jim just came back from Mexico.
Yeah, that was
Landed on a beach for a week. I was off at Comic-Con, having my own adventures.
It's been hard coming back to work. Let me tell you.
I can imagine. But it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
So I was thinking, it's been a long time since we've done a GameWalks episode. But I found a new game on my iPad recently, Zork.
Zork.
It's not really a new game though, actually.
Found a new game.
In a lot of ways, it's a really old game.
Circa what, 1980
Yeah.
something?
Activision has the Infocom license, and they put out a really interesting app, which is the Legends of Infocom pack, and it's got 26 different games in it, including Zork is the free one that you get with the app.
Nice.
And it's on the iPad. And, they've done a few optimizations to take advantage of the iPad, they have some words pre-spelled so you can type them in. But Zork is, of course, a text-based adventure game, one of the earliest adventure games, and one of the few games that is actually older than I am. So I feel like, as a games industry professional, when I come across a game that's older than I am, I just feel like I should play it. I don't know, I haven't played very many games outside of Pong or obvious games like that predate me. Have you?
No, I'll admit, I have not played a lot of games that are before my birth.
Have you played Zork?
I think I did back in 1990, early in 386 or 486 or something.
I mean, the game is tough as nails.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things to me is the spatial recognition required, because it's a text-based adventure, but they expect you to be mapping out the world as you explore it. So you literally need to have a pen and paper next to you while you play the game to basically be creating a map of the world as you experience it.
Yeah,
that's cool. And then the other interesting thing is the app includes the instruction manual that came with Zork. Yeah, because those games, they used to have giant instruction manuals.
Yeah, man.
And you have to read through it. There's it's how to play the game. None of it's tutorialized. It's tips and secrets that you need to reference in order to be able to be.
There's copy protection often baked into the manuals. Have you ever played games like that? Well, back in the floppy disk era and stuff. I mean, it's a piece of cake to copy a floppy disk, right? Or or whatever. So what they would do on some games is when it booted up, it would be please enter please enter this word.
And
there'd be
the
page
fifth word on page 17.
Page 17, paragraph 3.
I do remember that.
Word 8.
Yeah.
It's enter that word. It's flight or
flight.
Yeah, something like that. And that was copy protection back in the day. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't work so well nowadays. But
I thought I would just ask, because adventure games obviously is a genre that you love a lot. We worked together at LucasArts, not in the adventure game heyday at all, recently on the Star Wars property. But one of the things that drew me to LucasArts as a company that I wanted to work for was their storied history of adventure games.
Yeah.
Even though I knew that they weren't working on them anymore.
No, adventure games is one of the earliest genres I ever came across. I got really into all of the old Sierra and LucasArts adventure games of kind of the late 80s and early 90s. All the Quest series, King's Quest, Space Quest, Quest for Glory, Police Quest.
And these are they're 2D images with text displayed at the bottom.
So they evolved, right? So
right.
I mean,
Zork, which I'm playing, is strictly text.
That's very old school. King's Quest, 1 through 4, Space Quest 1 through 3, they all use the text entries. Pick up lantern.
But did they have any graphics, or they had some still images?
Oh, sure, yeah. So all the Sierra games, graphics, they started, I think, at maybe 16 colors, something like that. EGA, whatever it was.
And then that era of graphics and presentation lasted for a very long time in the adventure game.
Oh, it did, yeah, for over a decade. And, so Sierra had all the text entries. Ron Gilbert and his team, Scum engine, and it was still kind of, you had to match words together, but they had a visual, you know, where it was pick up, you click on pick up, highlight that, and then pick up, you know, lantern or whatever.
And you can
but
click
it was
on
still
the lantern
kind of,
and everything.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think back to Maniac Mansion. You know, and then around King's Quest V, I think was one of the first games to have full mouse input and the jump to 256 color graphics, which was a real leap forward for the genre. And looked amazing back in the day. I mean, I remember when it came out, and it was like, holy cow.
Well, what is it about these games that allowed that graphics to last for a decade? You know, still static image, and maybe they're helping you assemble the sentences, or maybe they're not, but fundamentally it's basically the same. And this is at a time when, I believe, games like Duke Nukem and other types of, you know, shooters and side-scrolling games
yeah, so like
available.
the old Apogee games were also happening right around that time.
So what drew people to these adventure games, despite the fact that they, you know, had what is essentially a severe technology, you know, setback?
I mean, what drew me to them was that because they were still images and you didn't have to do lots of, I assume lots of animations and lots of other stuff, you were able to create really beautiful backgrounds. I mean, it was all hand-drawn, and, you know, the LucasArts games especially, and some of the Sierra ones just have really beautiful landscapes. So you were really taking these worlds. I mean, you were those characters going on that adventure.
Yeah.
You know, you were in, you know, the Kingdom of Daventry, going through all these worlds of King's Quest and coming up against dragons and trolls and all these things. And
did you read a lot of books as a child too? Was it the similarity to books, like the fact that it was written text and that you're in some ways playing the part of the author, typing the story
I
yourself?
didn't do a lot. I mean, I was right at the cusp of where text went to kind of mouse inputs. So I can't claim that I, you know, played through like King's Quest 2 all by myself. That was right about when King's Quest 5 came out, and some of the earlier LucasArts ones, like, not early ones, but like when like Sam and Max. It was the characters. I mean, like, the writing was just phenomenal. So yeah, you read a lot. I mean, you read a lot of dialogue in those games. And before voice, because voice didn't come until they remastered like Space Quest 4 and King's Quest 6 they redid in voice. But it was all text dialogue boxes. So you would, even when you had the mouse stuff on King's Quest 5, you would click a little eyeball, and then you'd click on a tree, and you'd get a paragraph of text that's like, oh, the tree looks like it was, you know, made from rubber, blah, blah, blah. Most of the time that was just flavor text to get you more invested in the world. Other times you're like, oh, rubber tree. Gee, I wonder if I'm going to need that for anything. Oh, I need to combine this inventory item with it to get rubber that I'll eventually use for one. So
what happened to adventure games to the state that we're at today? Like, would you consider what we typically consider an adventure game today, like Uncharted or the newest Tomb Raider? Do you consider those to be evolved from these text-based or point-and-click adventure games, or are they separate?
No, I personally don't. I know we call them adventure games now, but I think
because they have a lot of that storytelling, world development, characters that you're describing, but the gameplay is so fundamentally different.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the old school adventure games, they were puzzle solving games. I mean, you were hunting around for objects that you would put in your inventory and use the clues from what you found to combine those with other inventory objects and use them on something in the world, whether it be a character or an object, to bypass that obstacle and go on to the next puzzle.
So in a sense, in a way then, has that genre died off? I mean, certainly it doesn't, high definition doesn't matter to that genre, so I can't imagine you would see that type of game on an Xbox, but then again, you love the painted worlds that were beautiful and ahead of their times for graphics, that you could easily do that. High definition, stunning artwork.
Well, I mean, so, you know,
have a point-and-click adventure today.
You could, and there are still people who are trying some of that. I think one of the most famous companies now, really at the peak of their game is Telltale. I mean, Telltale formed by a bunch of the ex-LucasArts guys with the spirit of trying to keep that genre alive and that type of gameplay alive. And they started with, Bone, which was one of the comic series they licensed, and eventually they got the licenses to genres like Sam & Max and Monkey Island, and they did more games exactly in that vein. They were now 3D,
Yep.
but
they're still basically puzzle inventory management.
Exactly, and now you see them really hitting stride with The Walking Dead, and I think that's just fantastic.
Yep.
The Walking Dead is about the characters, it's about the exploration, it's about getting yourself into that world. You get to play it at your own pace. You're not unlike Uncharted. You're not having to do cover shooter gameplay. There's a couple little reaction moments in The Walking Dead, but
not really.
And
yeah.
so.
And instead, they can devote that time and energy to telling a story and putting player agency and choice into the story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the credits of some of those Telltale games, and then go back to some of the LucasArts games, like
you'll see a lot of the same
names. You'll see a lot of the same names, like Dan Connor and those guys. They've been doing it for two decades now.
Well, as a counterpoint to that, I mean, it's great that they're doing that in the high-def scene, but I actually think the rise of tablet gaming is opening up a new world for this type of gameplay as well. There's, certainly the Infocom games that I started playing that were recently re-released, but another company that's been around for a long time, but never really rose to the spotlight in the way that Telltale is now, is Big Fish Games. And, they've been releasing a lot of their games over to the iPad, and I've been playing a few of them. Here, go ahead. Construction zones. They've been releasing several games. The Drawn the Painted Tower is an action-adventure series done in that old-school adventure game genre that works beautifully on the tablet, and even some indie games, not by Big Fish. There was an indie game I played recently called Tiny Bang Story, which was excellent. Combination hidden object gameplay and point-click action.
And I mean, the hidden object games have been kind of a similar style of genre.
Right, because that's really what the Big Fish games are. They focus on the hidden objects as much or more than the point-and-click adventure, but they have inventory and puzzle-solving and adventure games as well.
Yeah, and I mean, some of those elements have carried over into other genres as well over the years. There was a big shift, back in the late 90s when the genre went to 3D. I think that was a tough transition for both the developers and for the audience.
Yeah.
But I think now it's kind of making a comeback, and people are appreciating these games where you can kind of play them at your own pace, really take in the visuals and the world that the developers are creating. And I'm really happy to see that. And I had a lot of fun with The Walking Dead. I played several of the Telltale series that come out over the years, and it's really cool to see. So,
well, that could be a good thing for gamers with tablet gaming to get access to the genre.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, that's GameWalks for today.
All right, see you guys.